We always think about basketball as this super high-scoring game, right? Like the scores just keep climbing and climbing.
Yeah, it's all about offense.
Yeah, so you can probably imagine how curious we were when a listener reached out and asked us about a 2-1 basketball game.
2-1. Wow.
Yeah, a 2-1 game, we were like, is that even possible? So we started digging into it.
Had to be some kind of mistake, right?
Well, we couldn't actually find any record of a 2-1 game, but
When?
did stumble upon something even crazier.
Really?
Way more unbelievable.
Okay, you've got my attention. I'm intrigued. What did you find?
A game that ended 2-0.
2-0. No way, you're kidding.
I'm serious. A real official basketball game that ended with a final score of 2-0.
I mean, I know sometimes you get those really low-scoring games, where both teams are struggling to hit shots.
Right, like those defensive battles, especially in like the playoffs or something.
Yeah, exactly. But 2-0, that's like unheard of.
It really is. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. Like, how is that even possible? How can a basketball game possibly end with only 2 points scored?
It's wild to even think about it.
Totally. So we've got all this information, all these details from historical record and like analogies of basketball strategy and stuff.
Like, what actually happened in that game? What were the teams doing?
Exactly. So consider this your deep dive into one of the most unbelievable games in basketball history. We'll try to answer all those questions.
Sounds fascinating. I'm ready to learn how this happened.
So let's start with the basics. The game was between Bibb County and Brookwood High School. And get this, the final score, 2-0, actually tied the national record for the lowest scoring high school basketball game ever.
Wait, so this wasn't just some random fluke. This is an actual record.
An actual record. And we know exactly how those 2 points were scored, too. Brendan Rutledge, who was a junior on the Bibb County team, grabbed an offensive rebound from a missed three-pointer, like right at the beginning of the game, and just put it back in.
Okay, so 15 seconds in, they're up 2-0?
And that was it. The rest of the game, nobody scored.
No way. That's crazy. So what happened? Did they just suddenly forget how to play basketball? Did everybody get injured?
That's what makes this story so wild. It wasn't some freak accident or anything. It was a completely deliberate strategy by Brookwood High.
A deliberate strategy to not score. I don't get it.
I know, right? It sounds crazy, but it all makes sense when you understand the context. Brookwood's athletic director, Ricky Bush, actually described the game as a battle of wills, and I think that's a really fitting description.
A battle of wills. What does that even mean in basketball?
So here's the thing. Brookwood's coach, Thad Fitzpatrick, had a plan.
Okay.
And this plan was basically to rest his players. They had already played like 3 games that week, and a lot of the players were having some pretty bad cramps.
Oh, so they were just exhausted.
Exactly. So Coach Fitzpatrick decided to go with a very specific style of offense called the Princeton offense. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, vaguely. It's all about like passing and moving without the ball, right?
Right. It's all about being patient, waiting for the perfect shot, and not really forcing anything.
So lots of passing, slow tempo, trying to tire out the other team.
Exactly. And here's the key part. This was in Alabama, and at that time, high school basketball in Alabama didn't have a shot clock.
Ah, so they could literally hold the ball for as long as they wanted.
Exactly. And that's exactly what Brookwood did. They just kept passing the ball around, waiting for a perfect shot. And Bibb County, well, they were already up 2-0, so they didn't really have any reason to pressure them.
It's like a weird standoff, like a game of chicken.
Totally. And meanwhile, Brendan Rutledge, the guy who scored the only basket, was just out there playing the entire game.
Poor guy.
I know, right? He even said later, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, that the final score was 2-0. People were coming up to him laughing, saying he was the MVP, but he was just in shock.
I can imagine it's like the opposite of a highlight reel.
So that's the 2-1 game in a nutshell. A perfect storm of tired players, a deliberate strategy, and a lack of a shot clock.
It's funny. We started out looking for a 2-1 game, and we ended up with this bizarre 2-0 story.
It's true. And there are actually some interesting 2-1 concepts in basketball that are totally different from this.
Like what?
Well, there's this thing called the 2-1-1 theory that gets talked about a lot in the NBA playoffs.
The 2-1-1 theory?
Yeah, it was brought up by this ESPN guy, Justin Tinsley. Basically, the idea is that to win a best-of-7 series, you need 2 wins where your best player is just dominant.
Okay, so 2 wins from your superstar. Makes sense.
Right. Then you need 1 win where your second best player steps up and leads the way. And then the final win, the one that clinches the series, often comes from like a role player having a huge game.
So like a surprise hero situation.
Exactly. And he even used an example from a Nuggets-Suns series, like maybe Jokic carries you for 2 wins, Murray gets you 1, and then like Caldwell Pope pops off for the final victory.
That's a really interesting way to think about it, like the different ways teams can get those crucial wins.
It's definitely a cool concept, but it's also been criticized a bit. Some people say it's more like confirmation bias.
Like we're just looking for patterns where they might not really exist.
Right, like we see a team win a series and we're like, oh yeah, 2-1-1, that's how they did it. but it might not actually be that predictive.
I guess it's more like a framework for thinking about past successes, not necessarily a blueprint for future ones.
And either way, it's totally different from a 2-0 game. The 2-on-1 theory is about scoring to win games, not about avoiding scoring at all costs.
Right, totally different worlds.
Then there's another 2-1 term you hear all the time in basketball.
Which is?
The 2-on-1 fast break.
Ah, yes, that classic. Two offensive players running down the court with only one defender to beat.
And it's usually a pretty good chance to score, right?
Yeah, it's a huge advantage for the offense. The defender has to choose who to guard, and if they make the wrong decision, it's an easy basket.
So what's the typical strategy for the defender in that situation?
Well, they usually try to stay in the middle, in the lane, and force the ball handler to make a tough shot. But if the offensive players are smart, they can either pass for an open layup or draw the defender and then dish it to the open teammate.
So many options.
Right. Again, it's all about scoring. It's the opposite of what we saw at that 2-0 game.
Yeah, no fast breaks in that one.
None. And what's even crazier is that 2-0 game actually tied a record that had been standing since 1977.
1977. That's like way before I was even born.
It really shows you how rare these ultra-low scoring games are. Like, almost nobody plays like that anymore.
Well, and there's a reason for that. Back in the day, before the shot clock was a thing, teams used to use these snall tactics all the time.
Ah, yes. Holding the ball for minutes at a time, just passing it around, trying to run out the clock.
Exactly. And it was effective, but it also made the game super boring to watch.
I bet.
So that's why the shot clock was introduced. It forced teams to be more aggressive on offense and kept the game moving.
And that Bibb County Brookwood game that happened in Alabama where they didn't have a high school shot clock yet, that's the only reason it was even possible.
Seriously, that lack of a shot clock was the key ingredient in that whole Battle of Wills strategy. It allowed Brookwood to just hold the ball and basically say, we're not going to score and you can't make us.
So strange. And, it just goes to show how the rules of a game can really shape the way it's played. Like a simple thing like a shot clock can make all the difference.
Absolutely. So to sum it all up, this 2-0 game was way more than just some random fluke. It was a carefully planned strategy made possible by the rules and the specific circumstances of that game. It's a crazy story, but it also teaches us a lot about how basketball works, about how strategy and rules can collide in unexpected ways.
And, it makes you think about the games we watch today. Like, what other hidden strategies are out there? What other weird scenarios could unfold?
Exactly. So next time you're watching a basketball game, remember this deep dive. Remember that 2-0 game, that Battle of Wills, and keep your eyes peeled for the unexpected. Because in basketball, anything is possible.
Especially if there's no shot clock. Imagine a 1L game.
Don't even get me started about that. That's a whole other deep dive for another day. Thanks for joining us. And for more wild sports stories, don't forget to like and subscribe.
We'll see you next time.
Bye!